It's been a couple of days since I was last able to post. There's a reason for that. Much of the news is dominated by what happened to the building where my former workplace was located, and it's little wonder. The New York metro area hasn't seen that kind of loss of life since the events of 9/11. The death toll is already in the hundreds, and people are pretty sure the final death toll will be in the thousands. Nicola and I have other things to worry about, though. The man who got us out of our office building led us to Grand Central Terminal. As he was doing so, Nicola asked about her belongings and her house in New Jersey, and both of us were told that people were already dispatched to handle that. Of course, that confused us, and then made me nervous because neither of us knew what that meant. "Your house is under armed guard, is what I mean," he clarified. "Your house is being secured as well, Sophia." I shivered. It was like he read my mind. He wasn't even looking in my direction when I was thinking that. I pushed that thought away, though. I had more pressing matters to worry about. "What's your name?" I asked. "Call me Clint. Right now, we're headed to Sophia's house to regroup and debrief both of you." After that, Clint didn't say much else, and there was no way Nicola and I could say much in light of what had happened earlier that day. Both of us were still overheated from being forced to run so far and so fast. Perhaps Clint was counting on that. Either way, he wouldn't answer our questions when we asked them. We eventually arrived at my house. I couldn't bring myself to feel shock at the fact that my window was fixed, but I did jump when I saw a couple of people standing in the tree line. That's what you tend to do when you're unaccustomed to seeing people who look like SWAT officers or soldiers. Even investigative journalists find it hard to get used to that if they don't regularly investigate such things as that. At least we could all relax a bit. I let Nicola borrow a change of clothes, and I got changed myself. After relieving ourselves, we joined Clint in my living room. "I assume you'll finally tell us what's going on, am I right? Because Nicola and I would like a few answers." "I figured that would come out of your mouth. How about we start with the Black Bubble Forum, shall we?" My nostrils flared when I saw that my laptop was in his lap, but I didn't have time to say anything about it. Within seconds, it was fully opened and revealed the forum and a post. It was the one titled, "The Pilgrims Called Sophia and Nicola Shall Open Blind Eyes. Both of you, read." This is what the post said. "You've been given a brief history of tomorrow. Of course, the history is much longer than that. The history of tomorrow starts eons ago, back when the earth was still forming and the progeny of the void still ruled. In fact, the progeny of the void still rule. Few have the good fortune of laying eyes on them. Perhaps you'll find yourself worthy of them. Oh yes, you shall. There is a clue on where to find the progeny hidden in this post. Hurry, the progeny of the void eagerly await you." That was the end of the post. To say that Nicola and I were bewildered is an understatement, to say the least. All we could do was look at Clint. "Do we get to have answers to our questions yet?" Nicola demanded. "Who are these people and how did they know our names? For that matter, how do you know our names?" I asked. Clint chuckled mirthlessly and leaned back in the chair he was sitting in. "The dark web isn't as secure as people like to think it is. Even the people with security as good as the kind Sophia has can suffer breaches." At that, I ducked my head. He did have a point. I did have some very good security on my computer, some of the best that money can buy. Maybe I should have known. Even the best security money can buy can't guarantee anything. It's something every hacker learns fast. I looked back at Clint. "You sniffed around my computer, didn't you?" It was more a statement than anything else, but he still nodded. "From the moment you found the Black Bubble Forum, though as we came to find out, we weren't the only ones." Clint then leaned forward and put his hands on his knees, his chin supported by them. Right away, I knew he was about to tell us something important. "We've known about the progeny of the void for decades, ever since we learned what happened with the Ourang Medan. heard of it? Nicola and I shook our heads no. It's okay, it's not widely known about, and many people who have heard of it doubt the ship even existed in the first place. There's a reason for that. We destroyed many of the records of what happened to the ship. What did happen with it to make that happen? I couldn't help but ask. The SS Ourang Medan was sailing the Straits of Malacca in June of 1947 when it sent out an SOS signal. It started out normally enough. All officers, including the captain, are dead, lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. That was all that came out before the Morse code became indecipherable. The only piece that could be deciphered was that last sentence, which said, "I die." The source was triangulated, and then the American ship Silver Star was the first to reach it. The crew sent a rescue team, but there was nobody to rescue. And there was good reason for that. The entire crew had been turned into a giant pile of dead bodies. Their eyes were wide open in horror, their mouths open in eternal screams and arms stretched out as if begging for someone to stop. The captain was found the same way as the people found in the wheelhouse and the chart room. Not even the dog was spared. Perhaps the most harrowing death was the radio operator, his fingers still on the telegraph. Wait, so how did they know it was the progeny of the Void? I asked. I didn't even care that I didn't know who or what the progeny of the Void were. The bodies weren't the only thing to be found on that ship that day. They also found these papers around the ship. Each one was titled with the same phrase, "A brief history of tomorrow." Nicola and I immediately stiffened and looked back at each other. That was how that note thrown through my window began. Did the papers ever use the word anthrodynia? I asked. This time it was Clint's turn to stiffen. "How do you know?" he hissed out. Nicola made a beeline for her tote bag. After a bit of rummaging, she yanked out the note that had been attached to that brick. "Nice, it's still in my bag." She handed it to Clint. As soon as he was done reading it, he was pale. "So that's what was attached to that brick they told me about," he whispered. "It's worse than we thought." He stood up, took out a phone, and left the room. Nicola and I couldn't speak in light of that. Time ticked by so slowly as we waited for something to happen. Another crash jolted us to standing position. It was another brick, which, as I noticed, also had a piece of paper attached to it with rubber bands. Clint ran back in, and he was soon joined by two people dressed in SWAT garb. One of them spoke into a walkie-talkie. "What's the situation outside?" he asked. "3 people dressed in gray hoodies have run away from us. We couldn't catch up with them." I let everyone in the room watch as I took the paper off the brick. I read the message on it out loud for everyone to hear. "The pilgrims named Sophia and Nicola will seek a distant place. The name of the distant place is called Yestersoul. Let the neophytes find the factory that hides it." Clint yanked the note from my hands. He turned to one of the people dressed in SWAT gear. "Scan that post on the form with steganography software. We have a trip to take." "We? As in Sophia and I are coming with you? Why else would we have ordered your houses secured? It also means we're about to meet people we've been hoping and dreading to encounter for so many years." The post was scanned, and it revealed an image. It was a satellite photo of Mount Denali. Everyone in the room knew that we would need to head there, since there was a big red X located on one side of the mountain. The flight lasted a good 14 hours or so. From there, we drove from Anchorage to Denali National Park, which took about 5 hours thanks to traffic. From there, we spent the rest of the day gathering the necessary camping gear. We spent the night in a motel, and early the next morning, we headed into the park. That's where we are right now. We've been hiking for several hours and are getting ready to rest for the night. We haven't had much opportunity to ask about any details about who the progeny of the Void are and what they want, largely because Clint and his officers have been going over their own measures of what they need to do. We've had to prepare ourselves and go over the route we're taking. How on earth did a simple visit to a dark web forum lead to all this? All I know is that when we get to wherever we're going, I'll need to be prepared for anything. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support my channel, please consider subscribing with the button down below. Thank you to the incredible authors that allow me to narrate their stories. This author's links will be down below. If you'd like me to read your scary story, please email me at the email in the description. I hope you'll join me in the next video. Until then, bye.